they weren't really gods. They were fake gods, but that's what they were worshiping, because a lot of these Israelites back then, they were into these Greek this they were into this Greek mythology and these Roman worship of the pantheon, which the word pantheon means, pan means all, and theon is where you get the word God from, all gods. So they had certain auditoriums or certain gatherings or certain buildings that were dedicated to holding all these different gods. That's where the Roman Catholic Church today gets their inspiration for, to make these buildings and erect all these different gods in there. Because if you figure, if the scriptures say that you're not supposed to have any standing images or any different, statues of different gods around you, and you should not supposed to worship them, then why is it that all around the so-called Vatican, Saint Jupiter Square, or they call it Saint Peter Square, they have the pantheon, the old ancient gods of the different empires, of the Romans, of the Greeks, so on and so forth, and then they have all these different other so-called gods within that church, and all those different images, and they bow down and kiss the feet of Jupiter and all this stuff. They wouldn't have all that stuff if they were really like holy people, which shows you that the Roman Catholic Church basically is just following all the ancient customs of the ancient world. But the point of the matter here in the book of Acts, the 14th chapter, is what they call Barnabas Jupiter, and they call Paul Mercurius. So we want to show you in the blue of the Bible. I'm going to go to the book of Acts 14, just to show you that in this particular scripture of Acts, the 14th chapter, I want to show you what they have there for the term Jupiter, because we're dealing with the word Jupiter, because the Elder Tahar did a series on Peter or Jupiter. And what we're gonna do in this particular show here is we're gonna go into further go into Lucifer, and this nonsense of him being cast out of heaven, which they're trying to put it as it being Satan. But there are certain points in this series that we want to hit, and we want to explain to you certain points, so we're gonna hit it point by point. So now this is the book of Acts, the 14th chapter and the 12th verse, and you see here it says, let me do a little zoom in on that. It says, and they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker. So now you see there the word is Jupiter. Alright, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the Greek, and we're gonna look up the word Jupiter. And if you look at the word Jupiter, what do you have there? Zeus. Now wait a minute, Jupiter is one thing, that's the English translation, which basically is the Roman translation, or the Roman god, and then you have Zeus, which is the Greek god. Alright, now when you scroll down, the word Jupiter or Zeus equals father of helps, the national god of the Greeks, and corresponds to the Roman Jupiter. So they tell you basically in here what the deal is. They tell you what it represents. Alright, now let's go back, and we're going to go to the 13th verse, because we hit the 12th verse. We're going to go to the 13th verse to further prove this point. You see the word there, Jupiter, again, and what do you see for Jupiter? Zeus. See, so I'm not making this up, this is Jupiter in the English, which is the Latin form, and then you have the Greek form, which is Zeus. Alright, so now we're going to back on up off of this, and then now we're going to go to the meat of it. Now we're going to go to the book of Acts, same book, the book of Acts, the 19th chapter, right, and the 35th verse. And this is going to even go into it a little deeper, because here in the book of Acts 19:35 it says, and when the town clerk had appeased the people, because there was a big uproar, because Paul was teaching them that the gods that they worship, there's no gods that are worshipped by hands, and that the Most High doesn't dwell in temples made by hands. So the town clerk, because the people was flipping out, because they was avid worshippers of the Queen of Heaven, which at that time was being called Diana, but even prior to that was being called Artemis. She was being called by many different names, the goddess of fertility. So it says that when the town clerk had appeased the people, he said, Ye men of Ephesus, what man is there that knoweth not how that the city of the Ephesians is a worshipper of the great goddess Diana, and of the image which fell down from Jupiter? Now, this is an interesting note, because we're going to go, it says, if which fell down from Jupiter. Now let's look up at this word Jupiter in the Greek here, in Acts 19:35. And if you look at the word there for Jupiter is different from the Greek in the Acts the 14th chapter, and the word here is Diopetas, right? You see the pronunciation here, Diopetas, right? Now Diopetas, when you scroll on down, it means fallen from Zeus, an example from heaven, an image of the Ephesians, Artemis, which was supposed to have fallen from heaven. And that's a very interesting note, because of the fact that they always use the term fallen. Oh, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, thou son of the morning? And the word here is Diopetas, which the word Dio they use is supposed to be the word for like God, but they use it for the term Zeus. See, and the root word etymology, when you go to the word Dio, the word here they have is Zeus, right? Now, when you go back, the next word 4098, which is Petas, which they have here pepto, and then when you go down, it says to descend from a higher place to a lower. So basically, they're saying to be fallen from Zeus. That's what we read back in the previous page here, where it said Diopetas, fallen from Zeus, an example from heaven. Now, the Greek mythology of this whole thing is talking about this guy named Hephaestus. So now, when you go online and you type in the word Hephaestus, cast out of heaven by Zeus, right, and you hit enter, this is what you come up with. You come up with this page here, and then you go to Hephaestus Greek mythology link, and then you have here Hephaestus, you have his name in the Greek, and this is the Hephaestus. This is supposed to be the Greek metallurgic, or the metal worker of the gods, so to speak. All right, and then here it says, let's do a little zoom in on this. Right, it says Hephaestus is the god of the smiths. He discovered the ways of working iron, copper, gold, silver, and everything else which requires fire for working. And then it gives you the birth chain, it gives you all that bullshit. And now here it says falls from heaven during the whole day. Hephaestus was lame in his legs because he fell at sunset after a whole day fall on Lemnos, when Zeus cast him out of heaven. This happened because Hephaestus came to the rescue of Hera when Zeus chained her because of the storm she sent against Heracles, when the latter was at sea. See Lemnos, an island where Hephaestus is particularly worshipped. So basically, all this stuff that we've learned today, before we came to the truth about Satan being cast out of heaven and Lucifer and this thing and that thing, basically these are all cunningly devised fables that were used of these different Greek mythologies. And what they were doing is they were incorporating this stuff and using it to further enslave the people mentally through what they call religion. That's what we told you, brother. We did a series on we basically did a series on religion to let you know that this is not a religion, it's basically a worship. But the word religion, which means to hold down, keep back, and restrain, was something that was set up to keep down Israel by the Roman Catholic Church, to basically control them, to steal their lands, and to steal their property, and to steal their money, and to keep them in subjection, and to keep them in obedience to the Roman Catholic Church. That's why these things were taught, and that's why a lot of these Greek mythologies were kept alive through Latin sayings or Latin words, like the Latin Vulgate through Jerome, because of the fact that that was what they used to control the masses of the people of Israel. Alright, so that's where they got this whole thing from. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go from there, and we're gonna go into the scriptures to show you another scripture that they try to use besides the book of